And welcome to today's episode of the Talktagon. We are minus one of our co-hosts and Kristen King. She's a little tied up. Busy weekend this past weekend. You had UFC 232. You had Rizin 14. Yesterday, you also had the finale of the first season of the PFL. And while it was well received by a lot of people, it got a lot of major investment. I know celebrities like Tony Robbins, Kevin Hart, among others, put some stock, put some money into this. They also had Adam Hunter as a kind of a comedian. He did some promos for them. They did great things, but in Canada, the largest viewership I saw at any single time was about 12,000. There was also kind of a lull, and I guess baseline was probably 9.5 thousand, rolling steady. And that was international viewership on Facebook. So moving forward, it'd be interesting to see what happens there. And one of the big things that we had said before we came on air, I posted a poll saying that we were going to recap the weekend. And as far as the most important scoop from the weekend, 82% voted Nunes beating Cyborg. Another 18% voted for Mayweather, Nasukawa. So Ty, first of all, Happy New Year. And how was the break that you had?
Oh, it was great. The holidays are always fantastic for me. I get to spend it with my mom, and it's beautiful up here. We didn't get much snow, but and the New Year to me, it always kind of re-energizes me. It kind of makes me want to focus on different things, and it reminds me of the hard work that I have ahead. I've worked pretty hard this year considering the situation, and I'm really looking forward to it. So happy New Year to you as well. And we had a hell of a break, though. I mean, geez, this past weekend that was crazy. I'll have readily admit I had no idea Cyborg was going to lose like that. I picked her to win the fight. I was unimpressed with the light heavyweight main event. It just kind of bored me. But yeah, I think coming out of the weekend, no doubt, Amanda Nunes is the biggest winner.
Yeah, I mean, when we had talked, what was it, last week, episode of the Talktagon, I had picked the co-main event as being, a centerpiece, a focal point, more so than the main event. I picked it the same way you did. I think we all had Chris Cyborg winning this, and I was on point as saying, Amanda Nunes, she's got to take the fight to the ground. She's got to get a TKO. She's got to get a submission. Wow. I mean, I don't think really anybody saw that coming. One thing I want to ask you, and I tweeted about it, you might have liked it, a lot of people liked it and commented on it, but what in the hell kind of stance is Darren Rovell taking, saying that, this isn't what the UFC needed? I made an article to that point, but I worded it differently and I wrote it differently. Basically, the fact that the UFC's women's featherweight division right now is in a state of flux. You definitely wanted Cyborg being your champ for a long time, but if anybody was going to beat her, it was going to be Nunes. But Rovell took it kind of a 360 and said that Amanda Nunes isn't a draw. She only has one major sponsorship in a bottled water company that's not even a big bottled water company. Like, he was taking all these weird stances, and I had assumed that he was still with ESPN. I used to watch his baseball pack unwrappings. Like, he'd do a lot of off-the-wall weird stuff with ESPN. Now he's switched. He's with the Action Network, and if you actually look into it, it's an offshoot of ESPN. They have an editor-in-chief that's gone over there. It's actually still kind of a bit of a breakaway piece of ESPN, and Rovell's their biggest reporter. Are you surprised by the comments he made on the weekend?
Yeah, and I just found them unbelievably unnecessary. He didn't need, if he's going to step in and say something constructive at least. Amanda Nunes, yeah, maybe she's not the biggest draw right now. She does have the potential to do so. She's an interesting, very intriguing fighter if you look into what her background is and how she trains and her relationship with Nina Ansaroff. I think it's very intriguing as well because how they help each other. Tisha Torres is in a similar relationship as well with, I can't remember who. And so it's obviously benefited both fighters. And I think it's just unbelievably ignorant for Rovell to even step in if like that. He hasn't really said much about big time MMA lately that I've heard. And for him to just come out of the blue like that, I think I'm with the majority of other MMA media people who say that, why? So.
It's weird because after the fight, Dana White was super upset about it. But at the same time, and I had retweeted it, Dana White in an Instagram post basically trashing some fans that weren't going to buy the pay-per-view because of the John Jones nonsense. So it was kind of weird for White to come out and take such a stance against a journalist. We saw it in the build-up against the Swedish Isabel Kostic, who had asked questions about Jones, pressed on Cyborg. It was a little weird, the stance that Jones and White took. I understood it to a point, but it definitely wasn't professional by any means. And then he went after Rovell, and it seems weird because this Action Network is an offshoot of ESPN. And moving forward, we've got ESPN Plus, the first card coming up January 19th. So I thought that was a little strange. Question I want to ask you. So Chris Cyborg, Amanda Nunes. Who's Chris Cyborg going to face? And does Amanda Nunes stick around at bantamweight? Does she move up to featherweight permanently? What goes on there?
Amanda Nunes will not. I don't think she'll move up to featherweight. There's such a lack of other legitimate contenders out there right now. There's only one in my mind. She's going to go back down to bantamweight and fight whoever's next, whether there's it's overmatched or not. You know what I mean? She's saying there's not many legitimate contenders. Maybe she'll fight Ketlin Vieira.
Yeah.
I could see that being it makes sense at 135. Also, and I think she'll rotate back and forth for a while. I really do. I think why not?
Exactly.
If there's a big fight to take at 145, because there's not at the 145, there's not a lineup of people waiting. So it's a perfect opportunity to bounce back and forth and actually become one of these double champions who actually defends both divisions for a while. We haven't seen that. McGregor didn't do it. Cormier didn't do it. Cormier just basically took off to the heavyweight division. So imagine seeing that. That would be great. I don't think we've ever had that, man or woman. BJ Penn didn't do it. Did he?
No, I think like you said, I think Nunes is probably the most likely person to do it. And you look at the fight that we have, ESPN Plus, you got Dillashaw and Cejudo. Makes sense if Cejudo maybe moves up to bantamweight, wins the title, then you could see him at 125, 135. I don't think Dillashaw is going to stick around at 125, even if he wins. But to your point, yeah, I think Amanda Nunes is the most likely to stick around and possibly defend in both divisions. But for Cyborg, a division that was basically created around her. I mean, I know you had Jermaine Durandamy, Holly Holm in the first women's featherweight title fight. Durandamy vacated. Now she's a top-ranked bantamweight. For Cyborg, what's next?
Megan Anderson, sorry.
Yeah.
I absolutely think that's next. I know they're talking, rematch with Zingano, whatever. I don't think that is going to happen right away. I think that because of Cyborg is still such a draw, and she's made it clear after the fight that she wants to keep fighting. She wants to work her way back up. And I think a fight with Megan Anderson, I know that's kind of, again, throwing Megan Anderson to the wolves. But at this point, there's no other option. She is the most legitimate contender left at 145 right now. This tough season did nothing for the division.
No.
I mean, it was just a complete waste of time. And so, yeah, I think Megan Anderson. And I do think Megan Anderson will fight Kat Zingano down the road again. And I hope that Kat Zingano stays fighting at 145. I mean, she could fight bantamweight, great, but I really hope. I know she beat Amanda Nunes, so that's going to drive her down to bantamweight and think that she can do it again. That's the thing, right? So maybe Amanda Nunes, would fight Zingano down the road or whatever. But yeah, no, it's Cyborg, Megan Anderson. That's the fight.
One thing that really surprised me over the weekend, you had Carlos Condit losing to Chiesa. That wasn't the surprise, but Condit now, 5-fight losing streak. He's been submitted 2, maybe even 3 times in a row there. I know Oliveira and then Chiesa. So he's on a big downturn. Andre Arlovski passed the twilight of his career, loses a split decision with Walt Harris. I thought it was ridiculous because one of the judges scored it overwhelmingly in favor of Arlovski. And then you move down the line, you've got Ryan Hall, BJ Penn. Hopefully that's the end for BJ Penn. We don't need to see any more performances like that. I mean, it was a great Imanari roll by Ryan Hall. BJ Penn kind of turned into the submission and popped his knee. So out of those 3 guys, none of them announcing retirement, but it kind of came out through the woodwork, through a series of tweets and Instagram posts that Chad Mendes more or less has retired. Did that surprise you at all?
Oh my God. Yeah. That's, I think it surprised everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, why would he do that? It makes no sense to me. I mean, Volkanovski's a hell of a contender. We saw that, nobody can deny this guy is dangerous and he's heading up the rankings and deservedly so. But for Chad Mendes, he just came back. He was ranked 5th heading into the fight. So what? You lost. It doesn't matter that there's a lot more fights for him in that division. He could work his way back up. He's lost before and continued to come back. He came back from a suspension, and looked good. So I think it's so ridiculous. I can't believe that even came up. So yeah, it surprised me a lot. And I don't know if it's going to stick. I wonder. You know what I mean? Maybe he just needs some time off, clear his head. I don't know. But he just had some time off from suspension. Makes no sense.
I don't get it because, I mean, I've been pumping the tires of Team Alpha Male, but really recently they've been totally underperforming. You and I talked about it with Kristen last week, just about Team Alpha Male, the level of training partners, and it's great with who they're working with, but at the same time, nobody's winning. And another Team Alpha Male guy, I mean, Cody Garbrandt, when are we going to see him return? There's all sorts of, not announced fights, but rumors, it seems, swirling all the time. As far as UFC 232 was concerned, we'll get into the main event in just a second. So we were talking letter grades beforehand. I can't remember if we did give it one or if we even considered it, but after the fact, what would you give this card?
Absolutely, I'd say a B.
Yeah.
I was happy with it. I mean, when you're dropping $70 on these things on
Yeah.
pay-per-views, it's getting ridiculous. My satellite bill is just, oh God. So anyways, I'm glad there's not a pay-per-view for a while again. But I was unimpressed with the main event. To me, the biggest thing obviously was Nunez, but Ryan Hall was not even on the main event on the pay-per-view. But you know what I mean? That role that
Yeah.
Ryan Hall got on Penn. I thought the preliminary fights, not the Fight Pass ones, but the ones on TSN, they were great.
Yeah. I mean,
They were great.
Uriah Hall's comeback against Bavon Lewis, that was amazing. You sit there and you watch the fights and you listen to the commentary, and I wasn't doing the entire card as a fight companion. We just did the main card. And for the prelims, Matt got here, I think it was Millender Bahadurzada, just after that fight. So we watched the entire Hall Lewis fight. We were sitting there just complaining. I mean, Uriah Hall, he's known as a counter striker. You look at his past body of work, his win over Gegard. They highlighted that, but it's also worth noting that he lost to Gegard, and Gegard finished that one by TKO. So Uriah Hall now, I think he's 7-7 in the UFC. He was 6-7 going into it. And it was great to hear what he had to say after the fight too, talking about his sister's battle with depression. He had a lot of nice things to say. He also had a lot of nice things to say to Bavon Lewis after the fight. He went over and there was hardly anybody at the forum in Inglewood. So you could hear every single thing that Uriah Hall was saying to Lewis. He's basically patting him on the back saying, you know what, that was your first loss. That was also your first fight in the UFC. You've got a long road ahead of you. So I thought Uriah Hall was a huge winner this weekend.
Yeah, and it's great to see because we never know what we're going to get from Uriah Hall.
Yeah.
We've always known since he came into the octagon for the first time that he's unbelievably talented. He's got this gift that you don't often see, and I mean, he's just an unbelievable talent. But he's been so inconsistent. So to
Yeah.
see him get a win like this, and there's no question the guy's a class act when it comes to doing, respecting opponents, and when you're selfless enough to use that platform to talk about your sister, things like that. I don't care. Anybody thinks it's corny, it's what real people do who want to make a difference. And it's so glad to see him get a win because, like I said, you never know what you're going to get out of that guy.
Exactly. And as far as our main event was concerned, so you had John Jones finishing the fight in the third round. We were pretty damn lucky that we both wrote articles that kind of questioned Gustafsson to a point. What were we going to get out of John Jones? And I flip-flopped on my pick. On the Talktagon, I said Gustafsson was going to win. And then in my official picks that I posted on Twitter, they're there. There's a picture. I went 10 for 13, and I picked John Jones to win the fight. Kind of near the end, just based on, overall skill set. I didn't really like how, and even after the fact, he was talking about, I train so much in my garage. I work my boxing in my garage. But I will point out, he said that a lot on Twitter. I would liken that to a season where I went out and played a ton of pond hockey. I'm wearing the Team Canada sweater today. They lost against Russia yesterday. No big deal. But there was a season where I went out and played pond hockey 3 or 4 times a week. I worked on my stick handling. I worked on my skating. And I became a way better hockey player than I ever was. So for John Jones to sit there and just pick at it, and work on his boxing in his garage. I mean, it's one thing for me to say I got better as a low-level hockey player. But for a top-level guy to work on his boxing that much, and for it to more or less show through, I mean, he was switching stances. He did a lot of things well. He did a lot of things poorly, too. I mean, Gustafsson really pushed the pace almost to a fault. But for Jones, the question now is face Anthony Smith. Does he move up to heavyweight and take on DC? That's the conversation. I haven't heard a soul talk about Alexander Gustafsson after this fight. I mean, what's next for him?
Yeah, first of all, I picked Gustafsson to win, and deep down inside, I knew it was wrong. But still, I picked Gustafsson. I stuck with him. I was talking to my buddy Nick on Saturday morning and throughout the day, and we kept going, saying, yeah, we really know You know, like we both would like to see Gustafsson win, just because I like changes like that.
Yeah.
You know, and I know Jones hasn't been the champion for a while, but you know what I'm saying. Everybody has considered him the real champion for years. So yeah, but I agree, man. No one said a word about Gustafsson at all. I think what's next for him is a lengthy break,
Again.
6 months or so, and maybe he'll fight Anthony Smith if you know, Jones fights DC,
Yeah.
and I think that makes sense. Anthony, I don't think it's fair for Anthony Smith
I think
at
it'd be a good
all.
fight.
Yeah, but Anthony Smith is risking he's doing the
Yeah.
Frankie Edgar. You know what I mean? And he's already earned his title shot as far as I'm concerned. So he's doing the Frankie Edgar now. I mean, what, and against a seriously dangerous guy. He's risking everything. So, but that's probably the fight that's going to happen.
I think that's I legit, like, feelings aside, and I know it was neat listening to Luke Thomas and other media members talk. It was before the pay-per-view, I think, just about bias in articles. And I mean, I can say it. Like, I've spoken with Anthony Smith 3 or 4 times now in person. There's a bit of a rapport there, but at the same time, you look at the body of work that he's put in. He's won 2 big main events, finished both guys, finished a legit contender in Volkan Oezdemir, who's coming off a title shot. So, I mean, I could literally see Anthony Smith winning a fight against Alexander Gustafsson. I mean, Smith has kind of that killer instinct. He definitely has a better ground game than Gustafsson. Gustafsson's boxing is probably better, and his distance management's probably better, so it would make for a fun fight. But yeah, I mean, as far as Gustafsson's concerned, lengthy break, I think that makes sense. Maybe a fight in the summer. We've seen him take breaks before. You could even liken him to a Zingano before this year, or Jermaine Durand. He's somebody that fights once in a blue moon, and we just wish that they'd fight again. So hopefully we can see Gustafsson once, maybe twice in 2019. For John Jones, we're definitely going to see him more often. One question I'll ask you, and I saw it come up in a poll earlier on today. There's another fighter that we're not really talking about. They have a hearing on the 29th of January, and they're not named Khabib Nurmagomedov. Do you think we're going to see Conor McGregor more than once in 2019?
I do. I think we might even see him 3 times.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see him in the like March, April type thing. Maybe. I think we're going to see him International Fight Week, and I think we'll see him at the end of the year. I know that's optimistic, you know, but I tell you what, I think the Dustin Poirier fight's going to happen. And after that, I think maybe he'll face if Ferguson Nurmagomedov go at it, and Nurmagomedov beats Ferguson, I think he'll face Ferguson. And I don't care what anybody says, he's not fighting.
Yeah.
There's this rumor going around that, you know, because John Kavanagh doesn't want to train him anymore, whatever. He's still training. There's pictures of him, you know, every day. Check his Instagram and his Twitter. I mean, he's posting shit all the time. And I think, you know, he's made it clear after he lost that he's willing to work his way back up to that opportunity again. So this is just all bullshit to me that he's not fighting anymore.
To me, regardless of how you feel personally about guys like Conor McGregor and John Jones, it's great to have them back. It's good for the sport. I mean, they're super entertaining. They're superstars. Yeah, it makes total sense that we get to see them. And one of the talking points that I know you wanted to talk a bit about, last night, I was all over Twitter. I had my focus and my eye on PFL. If you're up in Canada, you can watch it free on Facebook. They posted a link just before the event. It was really tough to find beforehand. I had to keep tabs on Facebook all day to try and find it. And then right before it, there you go. You had, 6 title fights, but the one fight that wasn't a title fight was the most interesting fight to me. You had Kayla Harrison. So I had to do a little bit more research, and I've done PFL events before, but Kayla Harrison is a 6th degree judo black belt. I didn't know that part, 6th degree. She's a 2-time U.S. Olympian gold medalist. She was taking on Moriel Charneski, somebody who a lot of people counted out. She was 3-4 going into the fight. You had to look at her strength of schedule. She had faced Rosenam Eunice in her debut as an amateur. She has a loss to Leah Letson. She has a loss to Pam Sorensen, a loss to Marcia Allen. Those are bigger names, and a win over Sarah Patterson, who at the time was 5-3. And I believe, if I have a look, yeah, I mean, she's competed against some top talent in Invicta before. She also has a loss to Josette Cotton. Regardless, Moriel Charneski was not a good opponent for Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison needs a top test. And we're talking about what's next for Chris Cyborg. Kayla Harrison's basically saying, you know, that $1 million is mine next year. They're going to have a division for her at lightweight. I think the only real test for her would be a Chris Cyborg type. But does PFL have deep enough pockets to sign somebody like Cyborg? And would Cyborg make the move?
I don't know if they have deep enough pockets. I don't think so. But Cyborg, no, I don't think she'd make the move. Not at this point in her career. I think she believes there's more fights for her because she also wants to work her way back up to that opportunity. I think in her mind she believes she can beat Nunes. Now, first of all, Kayla Harrison is Ronda Rousey 2.0.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a shame she cannot make 145. Oh my gosh. It would just be so great to have her in the UFC. And I mean, Megan Anderson is talking about UFC needs to sign featherweights. That would have been like the greatest addition they could have gotten. Now, I don't think Cyborg will make the move. I don't think PFL has the money really when you think about it, because they're a startup, basically still.
They threw out $6 million to all the champs there.
Yeah, I know, but I think it would take a lot of money to get Cyborg into a contract. And also, she knows the top competitions in the UFC, and she wants to face top competition.
And that's the thing. I mean, I kind of went back and forth with a lot of people on Twitter. They had good ideas. They want to see Kayla Harrison in the UFC. You and I would agree. I mean, you want the best of the best in the UFC. It's the biggest promotion. It makes sense, but sometimes that can't always happen. And with Kayla Harrison, PFL has her as a commentator. It's the same thing as Sean O'Connell. He ends up, he was an underdog last night. He wins the light heavyweight title. He retires because he's got a broadcasting career. Well, they've set Kayla Harrison up the same way. Broadcasting career. We're going to have a division for you next year. You're basically guaranteed $1 million or whatever the payout's going to be next year. So it's pretty sweet for Harrison to be able to make that kind of money that you wouldn't otherwise make in another promotion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if they're going to cater to her like that, you can't blame them. I mean, she is the star of PFL. She is the big man or woman. She's the biggest name there. And man, she's talented outside of the octagon too. I don't know if you've seen her do any work. I mean, she's a very intelligent woman. She knows what she's doing. She knows how to make her way in this business outside of the cage. And I was impressed with some of the not really commentary, but analysis she kind of gave a while back. I've seen her do some stuff, and yeah, she's a force to be reckoned with. And you know what? The 155 division has been non-existent in the whole sport until she came. She's basically not just created PFL. Now, there's maybe going to be other promotions that get 155ers, and it's not a bad idea. If there's enough, it seems to me like there's more 155ers than there's 145ers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, PFL's had no problem filling the division.
The thing is, like Chernesky before her last fight, Sarah Patterson, she was at 155, but before that she fought at 135. So I think, and that's what I kind of posted, I think it's going to be blown up 135, 145ers fighting at 155. And that's what we're going to see. I mean, Josette Cotton, who she fought before, was 8-1 at the time. She was a true 155er. That was a bigger test than Chernesky was. No offense to Chernesky, but Josette Cotton was, kind of the real deal. And they had fought before, I believe. So yeah, it's kind of tough. But the one thing that I like from Harrison after the fact, she's kind of disappointed in her performance, which you can agree with that. You can not agree with that. But the one thing that she said, and her quote was, "Gosh darn it, I didn't want to, rely on my judo," which when you watch Ronda Rousey, when she kind of cleaned house in the UFC and in Strikeforce, she relied on judo. It was a judo throw and it was an armbar. For Harrison, she wants to kind of branch out from that, which I like to see.
Yeah, and that was my huge knock against Rousey. That was what I could not stand, was that she did the same thing all the time. And she was not, to me, a mixed martial artist. And, then this idea came that she was this great striker all of a sudden, which we saw was not true at all. So, it is what it is. And I don't know. I think Kayla Harrison's just so much better than Rousey. I think she has so much more potential. And I just, I can't believe they're not having any trouble finding 155ers. You know what I mean? They're not.
I mean, it's great to see, and hope for nothing but the best in the second season of PFL. I'm looking forward to it. I enjoyed it a lot, and one of the things that I know you and I agree about, having MMA during the week is definitely a pretty good thing compared to just your Friday and your Saturday. We had one more event this weekend. I did not watch it. I was tired after UFC, and I didn't really have the time. But yeah, Rizin 14 from the Saitama Super Arena, where the biggest fights happen. Co-main event really surprised me that Horiguchi was able to get it done over Darren Caldwell. Third round finish there. I'm not sure if they're going to have the rematch in Bellator. There's conversation that they will. I saw a tweet go out that Bellator is going to go back to Hawaii. maybe third or fourth quarter 2018, or sorry, 2019. I guess we're in the new year. And maybe have Horiguchi and Caldwell headline that card. That's not confirmed. That was just a rumor. But moving forward, in the main event, you had Tenshin Nasukawa and Floyd Mayweather, which was not televised in Canada, the US, and a number of other countries. Everybody got to see the footage after the fact. What did you think of the fight?
I thought it went exactly how it was supposed to go. I think Mayweather was just so much better than from the beginning. We knew this was going to happen. This guy was he wanted to fight. Fine, it's a fight, exhibition, call it whatever. And Mayweather did exactly what I thought he was going to do. He took care of him very quickly. And this idea that the fight was rigged, there's no point to rig a fight like that unless there's betting, unless it's a gambling thing and people are making money. And Mayweather was such a big favorite. Why would they do that? Were they going to change the odds on Mayweather? Well, that didn't happen. So I think the idea that this fight was rigged is a joke.
The thing that I put into it is the fact there were no judges. It doesn't count on anybody's record. So we were saying about a month ago, what's the point? Like, there's just no point in having this fight other than for pure entertainment. And going back and watching it, I mean, it was only a 3-rounder. And if you watch Floyd Mayweather fights, and again, I can't really say anything as a professional boxing media member because I'm not, but if you watch a Floyd Mayweather fight, the first, 5-6 rounds, it's just, kind of snooze city. He jabs, he'll throw a couple straights, he'll run around the ring. And if you watch this fight, it was just hook after hook. And he knocked Nasukawa down a couple times, and then the final one, he threw a right hook that just glanced his forehead. And that's the thing that bugged me. I mean, it's like Nasukawa get hit by a truck, and he jumped back into the ropes, and he had such a hard time getting up. It looked kind of staged to me. And the fact that this doesn't count for anything other than entertainment value, I could understand how a lot of people would think that maybe it is rigged.
But who would make money off of this?
That's the thing. Like, Mayweather made $9 million off of the entire thing, which is just insane. Nasukawa, who knows how much he made. And a good point that was made by Luke Thomas and a lot of other people was, why would Nasukawa lose a fight in Japan? I mean, it kind of tarnishes his reputation, but does it really? I mean, he faced top competition.
No, it doesn't. It's like the Megan Anderson Kat Zingano loss. Zingano didn't lose anything by losing that fight because of the way it went down. Yeah. And nobody expected Nasukawa to beat Mayweather in the first place. So it doesn't. I mean, it's like it's pointless. But to me, if you're going to rig it, it's because someone's making money.
Yeah.
And who the hell would make money off of that? I saw, he did fly into the ropes. I didn't think it was that staged. He had been hit, remember, a few times, knocked down twice before that, though, too. So maybe he was still stunned from that, and that's possibly why he was a little more, able to fly into the ropes like that. Who knows? But to me, like I said, I wanted to boycott the whole thing, and here we are talking about it. I said I would boycott it, and here I am lying now.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, you had UFC lightweight moving over to Rizin, Damian Brown beating Darren Cruikshank, a guy who has had a resurgence of a career in Rizin since I don't know what they test for over there. And I will say that. I don't normally say that, but he's had a hell of a run there. Damian Brown, first round guillotine. I thought that was awesome. Also, Gabby Garcia beating Barbara Nepomuceno. And then after the fact, was there a professional wrestler that ran in there to try and go after her? Like, did you see that?
I didn't see that at all. I didn't see that at all. I'm just so happy Gabby Garcia gets opponents.
Yeah.
Because I think she's so talented. But no, I missed that completely. I heard about it, but no, I decided to just, focus on something else.
Yeah, and UFC 232, PFL, Rizin, we had a lot of great competition this past weekend. I'm right smack dab in the middle of writing a Fight Night Picks guide to a busy spring in MMA. You got UFC on ESPN Plus, you've got Bellator, you've got a lot in February. I think UFC and Bellator each have 4 cards in February. I'm going to be going to NEF, like I mentioned, February 1st in Bangor. There's a lot to look forward to if you're a fan of the sport.
Yeah, and we can't skip over what Alexander Volkanovski accomplished this weekend, too.
No, for sure.
I mean, he definitely, a lot of people expected him to win that fight. I don't know if it's cheering for the underdog or whatever. I don't even know what the odds were. But he really came through, and now he's going to be headed up the ladder and getting a really maybe top 2, top 3 guy. Why not? Mendes was 5th.
I mean, yeah. Like you said, the odds, he was a plus 130 underdog. I think Mendes was like minus 155, something like that. And he was 10th ranked. Mendes was 5th. Does he get a title shot out of this? I don't know, but it's a division where a couple wins could get you close to the top.
Yeah, and if he doesn't get it, I don't think he should get a title shot now. I
Mm.
think he's got one more fight, against the top 2, top 3 guy, then a title shot if he wins that fight.
Yeah, and we're a ways out from figuring out, the top of the division, especially with Ortega and Holloway just fighting. Holloway probably didn't take the most amount of damage, but you want to try and preserve him the best you can, especially after the 2018 he had.
Yeah, and Ortega got banged up, but man, he looked good pretty quick after the fight. So who knows how that's going to go? And Ortega still is, anybody who needs a title shot's going to have to go through him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a great weekend of fights. I'm glad you brought that up with Volkanovski and Mendez, especially with Mendez possibly retiring. That's where the conversation is. And Volkanovski, only the one loss in his career. I think that was his 4th or 5th fight. So he's on a huge win streak now, riding really high. We had, kind of pointed out the Jimmy Kennedy win. I mean, it's nuts just the way that he finished him based on what Kennedy's been able to do up until that point and after that point. So great for Volkanovski. Maybe retiring one of the legends too.
Yeah, and if Chad Mendez goes, I'll be surprised if it really sticks right now. I think maybe he's just too down on himself. We need some time to think about what he's going to do.
So heading into a busy 2019, like I'm going to write, I've got that coming out. It'll be today. Making sweeping changes to the old studio. I'm apparently now the biggest fan of John Dodson. I've got a giant picture behind me of him. I've got a Joseph Benavidez going somewhere. I'm going to have a new camera up there. I'm going to have posters around. It's going to be a totally different thing. And I know this is the Talktagon, but if there's anybody out there that's thinking of getting into writing, maybe podcasting, different things, be sure to reach out because looking at growing Fight Night picks in 2019, that's going to be the goal. 2018 was the establishment. 2019 is going to be growth. That's what I'm looking forward to. What do you have going on?
Well, I'm also looking forward to that because, as you know, I'm a contributor to your site. So I'm also really looking forward to that and I hope I can help out with it. And I appreciate the platform you've given me. I think we got big things ahead. I really do. And so I'm going to be working on possibly a documentary that's going to focus on underground fighting, bare knuckle fighting, and MMA fighters who are struggling through the ranks. It's going to be a real gritty documentary and very real, all in Canada. It's going to be we're really looking forward to it, me and my buddy Disco, and I'm excited about that. I'm going to be writing a lot more, and we're going to revamp all 5 rounds with some OBS software. Possibly pulling it off YouTube. Not sure about that yet because I mean YouTube is so easy.
Yeah.
It's so hard to pull it off YouTube when it's just compared to what you have to do to get it on another platform. I mean, it's just so we don't know about that. I just wish YouTube would let us use music, like our music, the way we want to use music. So please, YouTube, change these rules. But anyways, so I'm really excited about that. My co-host Darren Laux and I are going to work hard to revamp that. We also have some interviews with some local fighters from local MMA fighters from Ottawa. We're going to focus on the local community and talk about some of the fighters in the Ottawa Valley, Toronto, things like that. And so that's going to be great. And of course, we're going to work on the Talktagon as always. Myself and you and Kristen King, and looking forward to a big 2019.
Yeah, 100%. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Craig Allen FNP. Ty at Above the Full Tie on Twitter. And you can find Kristen, our other member, and hopefully we can have her back again soon at Kristen King MMA. She had quite a few different articles out with Fansided over the weekend. And looking forward to more episodes of Talktagon, Fight Night Picks, and all 5 rounds as well.
Yeah, and Kristen, hats off. She did great work this past weekend. Really great work. I was very impressed. And I've watched her grow as a writer because I worked with her at Fansided. She has oh man, I'm telling you, Kristen King is so talented. If anybody watching this, give her a follow, a like, whatever. She's very talented.
100%. So we'll be back again with another episode of the Talktagon very soon, and looking forward to it.
Absolutely, it'll be a big 2019, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Thanks.